and warned Mexico to get its act
of the drugs coming in by water.
There's a farmland and national.
Do you feel something slipping out of control? Or do you still believe everything will somehow work itself out? Early 2026 didn't open with hope. It opened with chaos. Storm after storm. Wildfires swallowing forests. Oceans roaring and pulling people under. Strange colors in the sky. And human power crashing together like red-hot sheets of steel. Time feels shorter. The future looks blurrier. And any sense of safety is being torn apart, piece by piece. 10 events coming one right after another. Not random, not separate, but linked like urgent warning beats. From earthquakes and skies turning strange, to tension spreading across borders, they all come together into one cold message. This isn't just chance anymore. It's a serious reminder being sent down because humanity has gone too far. Before we go deeper and start pulling back the curtains of truth, please don't forget to leave a prayer in the comments to show your faith before God, okay? And now we won't have to wait long. Let's just go straight to it. 1. Strange tornado in Wellfleet, Nebraska, like a rope coming down from the sky. A huge rope suddenly drops straight from the sky to the ground, twisting the air tight and tearing the horizon apart. And you're seeing it in the raw video. No edits yet. No music, no voiceover, just the wind howling and that cold chill running down your spine as the sky seems to press right down. That moment won't let you look away, because what you're seeing is so direct, so real, like nature just pulled back the curtain to show its raw power. Wellfleet, Nebraska sits right in the middle of the huge sandhills, where sand stretches for thousands of square miles, and hot and cold air keep crashing into each other. This area is used to supercells, where winds can go over 200 miles an hour, knocking down trees and ripping power lines apart in just minutes. But this time, what shows up in the video doesn't look like a regular tornado. It forms slowly, stretching down from the clouds to the ground like a dark rope, hanging there for a bit before suddenly tightening its grip on the land below. As the clip goes on, the tornado screeches like metal being bent, picks up dry sand, turns it to mud, and throws it high into the air. For a second, it weakens, almost falls apart, then, just a few seconds later, it comes roaring back, stronger and sharper, like something gave it new life. The person filming is only a few yards from the core, close enough to hear that piercing hiss and the hailstones banging around everywhere. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great signs from heaven." And this picture puts a heavy period right there on that verse. From another angle, the tornado's shape is clear, a long cone like a giant trumpet pointed straight down at the plains. It even splits into twin funnels for a moment before coming back together. Storm chasers have noted these rare landspout twins, making the whole scene look like the sky is sending some kind of signal in its own way. Matthew 24:7 talks about earthquakes and upheavals in various places, and here, that line between earth and sky doesn't seem so clear anymore. Of course, some folks say this is just the usual extreme Midwest weather, a chain of physics that meteorology can explain. But the video shows what makes a lot of people pause. The strange way the tornado comes back to life, dies down, then flares up again, against what you'd normally expect. Revelation 16:18 talks about shakes like nothing seen since people have been on the earth, and this image plants a feeling in your mind that's really hard to shake off. If one rope has been let down from the sky in Nebraska, bringing fear and a heavy silence with it, what happens when more ropes start showing up in other places around the world? 2. Trump warns Mexico. World tension rises. One comment from Donald Trump suddenly put the over 1,900-mile U.S.-Mexico border right in the center of global attention. No troops are moving, no bombs are falling. But that single message was enough to make markets react. Capitals watch closely, and you can feel the heavy mood in every new headline that keeps coming. This warning comes at a time when the southern U.S. border is already stretched tight. The whole stretch from Texas to California has long been controlled by cartels that act more and more like paramilitary forces. They run territory, smuggling routes, and huge amounts of money. Recent reports on social media and news sites say these groups are now using scout drones, even ones carrying explosives, making the security problem go way beyond regular law enforcement. In a public interview that was broadcast openly, Trump mentioned the possibility of direct strikes inside Mexico as a tough way to stop the drugs. He didn't say it like a declaration of war, but the words were clear enough to start a chain reaction. Mexico stayed quiet. Diplomats are carefully weighing every statement. And analysts are warning that even a small misstep could shake the whole region. Matthew 24:6 says, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place," reminding us that sometimes just the rumors themselves are enough to plant seeds of fear. As the news spread, people online quickly split into two sides. Some strongly support the tough approach, saying only military pressure can break the cross-border crime networks. Others worry the consequences could get out of control, warning that any action might lead to regional conflict and worldwide effects. In the middle of all this argument, one shared fear stands out clearly: how fragile peace really is when big decisions sit on the table of power. Deeper reports take the story beyond just the two countries. They point to international powers influencing food supply chains, farming technology, and water resources, turning this border into one small piece of a much bigger global power picture. Luke 21:25 talks about turmoil that makes nations distressed, and today's situation gives those words extra weight. When a warning comes from the center of power, it's rarely just words. If this hotspot really gets triggered, could it be the sign of a larger chain of clashes waiting ahead, reaching far beyond the U.S. Mexico line and spreading across the world? 3. The penitential procession in the Philippines. In the middle of all the non-stop news about wars, natural disasters, and uncertainty, there are quiet moments that just make you slow down and feel something. Not explosions, not political warnings, just the sight of people walking silently in prayer. In a far corner of Asia, right in the middle of busy everyday life, something gentle is happening. It's like a reminder that faith is still here, steady and unbroken. In Cebu City, Philippines, where the Catholic faith has been part of life for hundreds of years, Fiesta Señor has come again. From Fuente Osmeña Circle to the Basilica Minore del Sto, Niño, long lines of people stretch on and on. No banners, no slogans, just bare feet walking. The statue of the child Jesus carried with care, and soft prayers mixing with the sound of church bells. In a world that's changing so fast, this scene stands out strongly, like a peaceful oasis in the middle of chaos. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still, and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth." That big, shared silence makes those words feel alive and real. This penitential procession isn't some kind of show. It's a journey of the heart. More than 240,000 people walk together, carrying their sorrow for sin, their hope, and their wish to start fresh. When the statue of Jesus is carried through those familiar streets, it almost feels like he's walking among us, touching the real, everyday lives of ordinary people. Do you see it? In that moment, faith stops being just an idea. It becomes something you can actually see and feel with your eyes and your heartbeat. Among the huge crowd, a holy feeling covers the whole city. Prayers rise up alongside the noise of traffic, creating this strange, beautiful mix of the sacred and the everyday. Acts 2:17 talks about God pouring out His Spirit on all people, and right here, those words don't feel like ancient history anymore. They're happening now, under this Asian sky full of wind and light. The event opens up something deeper too. When the gospel is shared not just with words, but through the living faith of so many people together, it becomes a powerful witness in these troubled times. Matthew 24:14 says, "This gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations." This procession feels like a quiet, steady flame, burning strong even against the fierce winds of the world. If, in all this global chaos, faith is still strong enough to bring hundreds of thousands of people together in repentance and prayer, what might be getting ready to happen next? And if He is present, quietly but clearly, is it just a gentle reminder or a sign that something much bigger is coming soon? 4. Discovery of a 1,700-year-old Bible scroll. In the middle of our fast-moving digital age, there are moments that make us slow down, not because of some loud alarm, but because of a quiet discovery that carries a sense of the sacred. Out of the dust and ashes of history, an ancient witness suddenly steps into the light, as if time itself has just opened a door that's been sealed for centuries. In En-Gedi, Israel, a place where ancient Jewish communities once lived, a scroll of the Bible, covered in sand and dirt, was brought back to the research table. Using a technology called virtually unwrapped, scientists could read the text without even touching it. Some well-known websites reported that the words came through surprisingly clear. Even though the surface was badly damaged, the text from the book of Leviticus stayed completely intact, giving off a deep sense of reverence that's hard to put into words. This scroll is estimated to be about 1,700 years old. It was buried and forgotten since the 1,970 seconds, but only recently has it been fully read and understood. What amazed scholars wasn't just how accurate the text was, but how closely it matched the Bible we have today. Matthew 24-35 says, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away." This discovery makes those words feel like a timeless testimony. In a world where everything seems to have an expiration date, this ancient Bible scroll stands as a symbol of faith that never wears out. The letters are still there. The meaning is still there, despite fire, ash, and thousands of years. Isaiah 40:8 says, "The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God stands forever." The very existence of this scroll makes that prophecy feel real and alive. But what stops many people in their tracks isn't only the archaeological value. Why is something this precious being read and revealed right now, when the world is full of unrest, wars, and a crisis of faith? Have you ever wondered, is this just a lucky find by science? Or could it be a message arranged so we remember the foundation that once guided us? Psalm 119-89 declares, "Your word, Lord, is eternal. It stands firm in the heavens." It feels like an explanation for this very moment. While every human system shakes, God's word stays steady. It doesn't need to argue or be defended. The En-Gedi discovery doesn't speak out loud, but its silence carries the weight of truth. If God's word can survive fire and time to come back at such a key moment in history, what might be waiting ahead? And are these ancient pages only reminding us of the past, or quietly opening a door to things still waiting to be revealed? 5. Wildfires in Chubut, Argentina, everything swallowed by ash and a sea of flames. The fire started without warning, so fierce that the Patagonia sky turned a thick, deep orange. Right then, we realized this wasn't just another regular disaster report. From the very first pictures, the flames rolled across the forests and mountains like a living wave, forcing us to face a chilling question: how safe are we really at the end of the day? In Chubut province, near Puerto Patriada, huge stretches of forest, tens of thousands of acres, had dried out after months of intense heat. They became perfect fuel. Strong winds blowing along the Andes made the fire race forward at a terrifying speed, jumping over natural barriers that people used to think were safe. Many news channels reported that the flames came right up to Ruta Nacional 40, forcing officials to evacuate about 3,000 people quickly, while thick smoke blocked visibility for miles. The fire didn't just destroy trees, it left behind a burned-out landscape. Ash-covered homes, fields, and roads. Areas of Chubut that used to be so green are now gray. Scorched ground stretching into Neuquén and Santa Cruz after one of the worst fire seasons on record. Luke 21:11 warned, "There will be great famines and plagues in many places, and terrifying signs and great wonders from heaven." Seeing the fire rise from the earth like that makes those words echo through the smoke. Early reports raised questions about whether people started the fire, but in all the chaos, the exact cause almost feels less important than the destruction it caused. As whole sections of forest collapse into flames, it feels like nature itself is being put on trial without words. Revelation 8-7 says, "The first angel sounded, and hail and fire mixed with blood fell to the earth, and a third of the earth was burned up." Those ancient words suddenly feel frightening when you look at the images coming out of Patagonia. What gives so many people chills is how familiar this pattern has become. Drought, high winds, fire exploding, mass evacuations. Matthew 24-7 said, "Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom." There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. It reads like a cold list of the non-stop troubles in these end times. The fire in Chubut didn't just burn trees, it burned away the idea that humans can control everything. It's a serious warning. with the flames acting like a tool of cleansing and reminder. And if wildfires like this keep spreading wider, what will the big picture look like when the line between natural disaster and judgment gets harder and harder to see? 6. 3 or 4 tornadoes formed at the same time, like trumpet horns. The sky suddenly dropped right in front of you, huge and heavy enough to take your breath away, as those black cloud columns twisted like an invisible hand was wringing them tight. That moment hit you with a mix of awe and fear, like nature had just torn open the peaceful curtain we're all used to. We stood there watching a sight that makes your heart pound when the whole horizon wasn't calm anymore. It was shaking like it might break apart. From that giant cloud, 3, then 4 tornadoes spun up almost at once, dropping down onto the green plains fields. The funnels swirled together, pulling dust and debris way up high, looking like giant organ pipes shooting straight down from heaven. In the video footage, you can really feel how small and fragile we are facing that kind of unstoppable force. Meteorologists call this a rare multi-vortex setup, several smaller spins turning inside one main core, which makes the damage even worse. Winds in these things can top 200 miles an hour, strong enough to yank big trees out by the roots and tear buildings apart in just minutes. Warnings kept coming one after another, pointing out that weather is getting tougher to predict as tornado conditions stack up faster and stranger than before. With the wind screaming and the ground shaking, that scene brings to mind Revelation 8-6, and the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound, like the sky was getting ready to blow a signal that's been warned about for a long time. It's not a final answer, just a cold little hint that sets up the feeling these movements up above aren't only about physics. Experts keep saying we're in a new era of extreme weather, where big tornado outbreaks come in bunches instead of one by one. There's more energy in the atmosphere now, so storms organize easier, and when they hit, the destruction often goes way beyond what we used to see as normal. Then 1 Thessalonians 4:16 adds another layer. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God. And those words make those spinning funnels feel far from empty. As the tornadoes finally faded away, the ground was left with long, ugly scars, and the sky went quiet in a nervous kind of way. Matthew 24-31 says, "He will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, like a picture of gathering people together, calling them in, waking them up." What just happened doesn't explain everything, but it sure leaves you feeling like a signal just went out. If 3 or 4 trumpets can sound all at once in one spot, what's going to happen when other skies start answering back? 7. Pink sky and snow in Birmingham, UK. Birmingham slipped into night like any other evening, but the sky above the city turned a strange shade of pink, coloring everything and leaving folks with an odd, uneasy feeling. The light wasn't bright and flashy like usual. It was soft, quiet, almost like a curtain slowly coming down. In that moment, the familiar modern city suddenly felt far away and strange. This happened in the West Midlands, when Storm Goretti brought rare heavy snow that blanketed Birmingham in white. Some popular websites explained that the city's LED lights reflected off the low clouds, creating this neon pink glow that covered the whole sky. The thick falling snow made the pink spread even more, turning the streets into a scene that was stunningly beautiful and a little unsettling at the same time. Instead of the usual deep black of a winter night, the sky looked like something from a dream, unreal, with snow drifting down quietly through that unnatural pink. Videos going around showed the whole city bathed in this weird light, making people wonder if it was just a trick of the eye or something more. Right after the pictures spread, folks online started arguing a lot. Some said it was just light pollution mixing with rare weather, something physics can easily explain. Others saw the pink as a strange sign, especially with snow and light appearing right when the world feels so unsettled, and the timing made them nervous. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." Reading that next to Birmingham's sky, the pink isn't just a color anymore. It feels like something to think about. It doesn't force a meaning, but it opens up different ways to see it. Joel 2:30 talks about, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and billows of smoke," like an old explanation for strange things happening up high. Acts 2:19 goes on, I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, so that pink sky starts looking like a message with layers of meaning depending on how people take it. Even if science can explain how the light worked, that uneasy feeling doesn't just go away. The sky changed color right in front of millions of people, and it made us look up longer than we usually do. If more strange colors keep showing up in skies around the world, is it just random lights from below, or the start of something bigger waiting ahead? 8. Strange object hovering in the Australian sky. Australia's sky, usually full of sudden sun and wind, suddenly had this dark patch just hanging there. It wasn't moving much, didn't glow, and didn't fade away like regular clouds do. The shape felt kind of mysterious and made people wonder, like something was just stuck up there in the middle of the air. When you watch the video, it's hard not to feel like you're seeing something no one has really named before. People spotted this thing in different parts of the Australian sky, especially in Queensland and New South Wales, places that have had UFO or UAP reports in the past. Some folks compared it to the trail from a rocket, but the big difference is this one's deep black and just stays still, not moving or changing. In the video that's going around, the object looks like a half-dissolved cloud with fuzzy edges, really dark against the white clouds behind it. It doesn't fall, doesn't drift fast with the wind, and makes no sound or give off any special light. We're looking at something that's tough to explain, where normal everyday logic kind of stops working. Some people think it's just a rare weather thing, maybe tied to unusual humidity or air pressure. Others connect it to UAP sightings in Midwest Western Australia, where strange objects had that same blurry shape, slow movement, and no clear man-made signs. The real tension isn't in picking one answer. It's that none of the usual explanations quite convince everybody. Luke 21:11 once said, "There will be fearful sights and great signs from heaven." Those words open the door to the idea that the sky isn't always just a quiet backdrop. When you put this sighting next to that verse, the unclear feeling becomes more like a hint than a firm statement. It doesn't say exactly what's coming, but it reminds us that strange signs can show up out of nowhere. Matthew 24:29 goes on, "The sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken." Even though this object isn't a star or the sun, its odd presence still makes the sky feel disturbed, like the usual order is being gently but noticeably shaken. Ezekiel 1-4 describes, "I looked, and there before me was a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light." It's an old picture of something coming from above that people can only watch, not control. The thing over Australia doesn't match perfectly, but it brings up a similar feeling, a sign that hasn't been given a name yet. This event doesn't come with a final answer. It just leaves a heavy quiet in our minds. As more of these objects show up, the question isn't really what they are anymore. It's why the sky keeps sending down images that make us look up and wonder about ourselves. If this is just the beginning, how far beyond our ability to name them will the next strange signs go? 9. The waves out at sea are getting bigger and stranger, crashing onto the land and sweeping that girl away. As the afternoon light slowly faded along the horizon, the ocean suddenly changed color, like it took one long, deep breath before unleashing something terrible. The roar hit you right in the chest, the wind howled, and in just a second, that safe feeling we're all used to was gone. No warning, no siren, just a cold fear rushing through every breath. Security cameras caught that moment on an Arabian beach, where this freak wave rose way higher than the water around it. It didn't roll in like a normal tide. It shot straight up, stood tall, then slammed down like an invisible punch. A girl standing too close to the edge got snatched away. Her small body rocked back and forth in the white foam, her cries swallowed up by the roaring sea. The next frame turns chaotic. Swirling water stretches out dozens of feet, sand and rocks lifted like they weigh nothing. People nearby just freeze. No one has time to react. You see it, don't you? One wrong step, one bad spot, and the line between standing safe and disappearing completely is so thin. That helpless feeling spreads fast, because against that kind of power, everything we plan or think just feels tiny. Experts later explained that these extra high waves aren't rare anymore. Warmer oceans, changing air pressure, shifts in the seafloor, they all trap wave energy, then release it suddenly. The numbers show extreme waves are happening more often in recent years, almost like the sea is building up something it hasn't let out yet. Luke 21:25 described it so clearly. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. Reading those words now, the ocean isn't just scenery anymore. It becomes a voice asking hard questions, showing how fragile the order we thought we controlled really is. These waves don't just hit the shore, they hit our shared sense of safety. Psalm 93:4 keeps ringing out like a reminder. Mightier than the thunder of the great waters, mightier than the breakers of the sea. The Lord on high is mighty. The wild power of the water is put side by side with God's ultimate authority, as if to say, there are limits we can't cross. When the sea gets angry, it's not just an accident. It's a revealing of a shaken moral order. And then, Revelation 21:1 opens a sobering picture. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. If the sea, the symbol of chaos, can one day be gone, maybe today's waves are just warning signs. When one wave can sweep a life away in a heartbeat, the question still hangs there. What happens if the whole world stands in front of that rising water? 10. Strange object floating above the clouds. Up there in that quiet height, with the engines humming steady, one sight suddenly makes your heart slow down. Right outside the window, something not part of the usual sky is drifting along beside the plane. Pure white, so bright it almost makes the light feel shy. Have you ever wondered why sometimes just one image can make your heart feel heavy, like a very old memory just brushed against you? From the cabin of a regular flight, the object becomes clearer as the clouds part. It stands straight up, long and slender, like an upside-down candle. No flashing, no color change, just holding the same steady distance from the plane. For those few seconds that feel like forever, a wave of nostalgia rises up, as if you're seeing something you once heard about long ago, now suddenly back again. Lots of folks are quick to put a name on it: weather balloon, shadow, optical illusion, or some light streak in thick clouds. But this thing isn't drifting free. It moves at the same speed, same direction, almost like it's traveling with us on purpose. Try putting yourself in that moment and see how thin all the explanations feel when you're touched by something holy you can't quite name. Luke 21:27 once recorded an image that has made generations stop and think. Then people will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with great power and glory. Reading that verse again with wide open sky and clouds all around, the picture doesn't stay on the page anymore. It steps out of our shared memory and hangs right there in front of your eyes. Daniel 7:13 carries the vision further with these ancient words. In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven. The clouds are no longer just weather, they become the stage for the final things, where the line between this world and eternity starts to fade. And then, Revelation 1-7 closes it with a statement you can't avoid. Look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, even those who pierced him. And all the peoples of the earth will mourn because of him. When those words ring out, all the doubt slowly quiets down, making room for a straight, honest facing of something no one can turn away from. People may keep arguing, keep trying to name the sighting with safe, familiar terms, but sometimes what matters isn't what it is, it's what it wakes up inside your heart. If that image makes you slow down, makes you think more about faith and about coming home, then maybe it has already done its deepest work. Before you leave this moment, please leave a short prayer in the comments below. Nothing fancy, just honest and real. Because who knows, maybe that quiet and those simple whispered words are the clearest way to answer the last sign the sky has just opened up to show us. Here are 10 signs that have passed, like 10 deep drum beats echoing across the same sky. From fierce acts of nature, skies changing color, strange objects appearing, to oceans raging and the heavens torn open by images hard to name, none of these stand alone. When you step back and look at the whole picture, those pieces slowly come together into one clear message. Heaven, earth, and mankind are all being shaken at this very special moment in time. When you place this chain of events alongside the big picture in the Bible, their meaning becomes very clear. Matthew 24:6-8 warned us plainly, You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. All these are the beginning of birth pains. What we've seen isn't the final climax. It's more like alarm bells ringing again and again, urging all of us to stop and think about where we stand before our Creator. These signs are becoming more and more open. They're no longer hidden in dark corners or passed around in whispers. Luke 21:28 puts it straight. When these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. The way these unusual events keep coming faster and stronger tells us the warning is no longer far off in the future. It's knocking at the door every single day. In light of all this, what really matters isn't arguing about what's right or wrong. It's the condition of our hearts. You might want to quietly ask yourself, where do I stand as these signs keep coming one after another? Acts 3:19 gently reminds us, repent then, and turn to God, so that your sins may be wiped out. Waking up, turning back, and holding fast to faith isn't about being afraid. It's the wise choice of someone who understands what lasts forever. In this quiet moment, I invite you to leave a short prayer or a sincere thought from your heart in the comments below. James 5:16 tells us, the prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. Even one simple sentence can be a real sign of coming back and joining together in faith. If these words touch you, please like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss the next reminder. Hebrews 10:25 encourages us, encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Sharing isn't meant to scare anyone. It's to help more people wake up. Finally, thank you so much for staying with me to the very last line. May the blessing of Numbers 6:24-26 rest on you and your family. The Lord bless you and keep you and give you peace. May we all be held safe in the loving arms of God. Amen.
قاسم سلیمانی در آتش.
Lots with some signs of progress.
Is the sky sending out a sound that doesn't belong to this world, as fire and ash sweep across the continents all at once, signaling that time is being cut short until it's hard to breathe? The first days of 2026 have kicked off with one event after another, where nature is roaring, people are rising up, and holy signs are piling on top of each other like warning bells, forcing us to stop and look straight at the uncertain future ahead. 10 events, from strange-shaped tornadoes, fire bursting from the ground, wildfires, riots, wars, to weird lights up in the clouds, have exploded one after another, swallowing up any feeling of safety we're used to. Are we facing signs we can't just brush off? Or are we trying to look away to avoid the truth that's coming out? This story isn't over yet, because each sign is just the first piece of a bigger picture that's slowly taking shape. Let's dive into each part together, and if you can, please say a little prayer for ourselves and for peace in the world. Write down in the comments. Now come with me as we look closer at the 10 events that show the flames of chaos swallowing up this world. We'll start right away with the first on. 1. The strange trumpet-shaped tornado. The sky over the southern plains of the United States suddenly felt heavy in a way that made the air seem tight, creating a nameless unease, like when you sense something has just slipped out of nature's usual path. No explanation needed. The images in the videos alone were enough to leave viewers quietly amazed, the kind of feeling that hints a chain of events is starting to unfold. This happened in parts of Texas and Arizona, places no stranger to strong winds and fierce tornadoes born from big storm systems. Winds reached over 120 miles an hour, not rare in weather records, but the shape of this tornado was unusually hard to ignore. Drone and phone videos showed it stretching straight up, narrow in the middle, and wider at the top, looking a lot like a giant trumpet pointed at the sky. The tornado didn't last long, but it was intense. Its wide swirl, hundreds of feet across, swept the ground, picking up dust, debris, and panic. The low, steady roar of the wind sounded more like a regular call than random noise. Many Christians saw the shape and sound as a reminder of the first trumpet mentioned in old scriptures. In Revelation 8-6 it says, "And the 7 angels, who had the 7 trumpets, prepared themselves to sound. That line is often seen as the start of a series of events, not to explain weather, but to place it in a bigger picture of warning. When you put the odd-shaped tornado next to those words, the vague feeling becomes clearer, because the similarity is in the symbol, not the science. Revelation 8-7 goes on, "The first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth. And a third of the trees were burned up." That part doesn't mention wind or tornadoes, but it stresses the beginning of a chain of changes that can't be undone. That's why this strange-looking tornado feels to some like an opening signal rather than just a one-off event. Skeptics still call it a random coincidence among thousands of recorded tornadoes, pointing to stats and climate patterns. But the quiet question remains. Out of so many familiar shapes, why did this one echo a symbol that's been in religious texts for thousands of years? If it's a first warning, it's not loud or judgmental, just big enough to make people stop and listen. And once that opening signal has appeared, whatever rises from the ground next might be what makes the rest of the events impossible to brush off. 2. Mayon volcano erupts. The mountain that folks in the Bicol region long saw as a peaceful symbol suddenly turned into something overwhelming, with a column of ash and fire ripping through the sky out of nowhere, forcing everyone to look in just one direction. It happened so fast that videos spread in just a few hours, giving that feeling like the ground had been woken up after a long, angry sleep. Mayon sits in Albay province, standing over 8,000 feet tall, and it's one of the most active volcanoes in the Philippines, with eruptions going back centuries. Local people are used to having it around, but this wake-up call was unusually strong. Thick clouds of ash quickly covered everything, choking out the daylight and leaving the horizon lost in heavy gray. Hot flows of material rolled down the slopes at speeds up to hundreds of feet per second, carrying rocks, ash, and poisonous gases. The heat was enough to burn everything in its path, turning once green areas into black, scorched streaks in no time. We saw crowds of people rushing away from their homes, evacuation roads packed full, and panic spreading with every step they took to get out. Scientists say built-up pressure from magma, deep down, along with underground earthquakes, pushed Mayon past its stable point. Local authorities kept raising the alert levels, setting up no-go zones several miles wide, and ordering thousands of residents to leave the danger areas. Urgent warnings came one after another, not to calm people, but to stress that the risk was still there and not easing up. In Revelation 8-8, it says, "The second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain, burning with fire, was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood." That image of a great mountain burning with fire from the Old Text often comes up as a strong reminder. When fire isn't just a natural thing anymore, but a symbol of revelation and judgment. Seeing it next to footage of Mayon erupting, that feeling doesn't seem distant or abstract. Luke 21:11 also says, "There will be great earthquakes, and in various places famines and pestilences, and there will be terrors and great signs from heaven." This passage doesn't explain causes, but lists the effects like a serious record where one upheaval follows another, forming a chain that's hard to break. A volcano eruption like this gets seen as part of a bigger picture, where nature and people both face their limits. The fire from Mayon isn't just burning the slopes. It's lighting up a clear warning about things we've overlooked or taken lightly. And while the lava is still glowing hot, a quiet question comes up. If fire has already poured down from the mountain, what else might get caught in the next spread when that fire reaches farther into the forests? 3. Puerto Patriota wildfire. No sirens, no warning, just a heavy silence so thick you could hear the dry wind rushing through the treetops. Then, from the horizon, a red glow started spreading, like a wound opening up, letting everyone know the calm was over. In the Puerto Patriota area, down in Chubut province in southern Argentina, the ancient forests of Patagonia suddenly became fuel for the flames. The fire didn't explode all at once. It crept in, slow and steady, as if blocking every way out. The air got trapped in smoke and heat, leaving that trapped, breathless feeling. The flames spread over more than 5,000 acres. Strong winds along the mountainsides pushed lines of fire that swallowed whole sections of forest. Towers of smoke rose thousands of feet high, covering the sky and turning daytime into a dull gray. Major international news outlets reported that around 3,000 tourists had to leave the area in an emergency as national parks were closed off one by one. In the middle of all that fire, wild animals hardly had a chance. Birds and other creatures panicked, trying to escape, many caught in rings of heat and poisonous smoke. The damage isn't just measured in acres burned, but in the permanent empty spaces left in the ecosystem. Maybe when you see pictures like that, you wonder just how small people really are against an out-of-control fire. All our technology and plans seem so fragile when nature fights back in its harshest way. Experts say the long dry weather, strong winds, and possibly human causes created perfect conditions for the disaster. Local authorities keep sending out warnings, limiting access to the forests and calling for people to follow evacuation orders, because even one little spark can start a chain of destruction that can't be undone. In times like these, the Bible comes up as a way to understand the deeper meaning. 2 Peter 3:10 says, "But the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will disappear with a roar, the elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything done in it will be laid bare." Fire isn't just a physical thing, it's also a picture of complete cleansing. Then Revelation 8:7 sounds like a cold description of what's happening. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Fires covering the earth aren't strange anymore. They're a haunting pattern that keeps repeating. That's why wildfires are seen as a sign burning away the rotten things humanity has planted. The forests have burned, the ground is black, but the question still hangs. When the fire starts from inside people's hearts, what's left in the world to put out that kind of chaos? 4. Chaos is blazing in Iran, with the younger generation tearing down a statue of Qasem Soleimani. The air in Kashan is tense as a wire, filled with shouts, siren wails, and smoke from fires wrapping the streets in a wild rhythm that's hard to control. Those first moments of the protest pushed everything past the usual limits, and right now, we're probably wondering what's really being driven to the edge. In Isfahan province, where political unrest has been building for a while, the crowd quickly turned into an angry flood. The statue of Qasem Soleimani was pulled down amid loud cheers. Flames shot up fiercely, tear gas spread everywhere, turning the streets into battle lines. According to CNN and Fox, security forces were deployed in heavy numbers. Many roads were blocked, and the hotspots kept shifting in just a few hours. Reports of casualties and arrests come in bits and pieces, showing how tough the situation is to handle. Political analysts say the anger isn't just from one symbol being burned. It's built up over years of social discontent, economic pressures, and deep divisions in beliefs. They warn that when trust wears away, any spark can ignite violence, leading to a chain reaction that spreads beyond one city or country. Matthew 24:6 comes up like an old warning, laying out history's repeating cycle. "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place. But the end is not yet." These words don't describe just one event. They point to a long stretch of unease, where people get used to conflict and see chaos as something inevitable. As violence spreads, the lines between nations and politics get carved deeper, turning differences into confrontations. Matthew 24:7 keeps shining a light on today's reality. "For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places." Those lines hold up a mirror to our time, where divisions aren't just hidden risks anymore, but have become the driving force behind actions. Many skeptics think this is just a regional political incident, but if we only look at the surface, how do we explain the unrest echoing across continents? The flames in Kashan aren't simply rebellion, they're like a spark that could ignite bigger clashes, where local conflicts easily get pulled into a global orbit. Riot fires have burned bright in the heart of the city, leaving behind ashes of old trust and order. But alongside that, there's still this lingering question without an answer. When chaos rises high, is there anything strong enough to stop the world from sliding deeper into a spiral of confrontation? Or are more flames waiting to flare up next? 5. The Flame of Faith, Ethiopia's Festival of Candles. Amid all the rushed news about fires, riots, and things falling apart, there are still these quiet, slow moments, like a held breath in the middle of a storm. Somewhere in the world, as night falls, little candles get lit. No big noise, no show-off, just enough to remind us that hope hasn't gone away. At Meskel Square, in the heart of Addis Ababa, millions of Ethiopian Orthodox believers gather quietly in a solemn atmosphere. The huge square slowly fills with the white of ceremonial robes. Candles are passed hand to hand and lit with reverence. That light isn't blazing like a fire of judgment. It spreads steadily, creating a gentle sea of brightness in the darkness covering the world. John 1-5 is whispered in ancient hymns, like a soft explanation for this moment. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The verse isn't about loud confrontation. It highlights the quiet power of light that stays present even when darkness seems to have won. Reports say Meskel Square can hold hundreds of thousands of people for the same ritual, making it one of the biggest gatherings of faith in Africa. Voices rise together in song. The candle flames flicker in the eyes of old folks, children, and families standing close. No panic, no shouting, just a sacred feeling all around, as if time has stopped for a while. Psalm 119-105 comes to mind as a key to understanding this flame. Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path. Here, fire doesn't destroy or burn things down. It guides the way. It's there to keep souls on track in a world full of unrest and division. While in many places fire means judgment and collapse, in Ethiopia, these candle lights stand for protection. They show that faith doesn't have to shout to survive. It holds steady even when everything around is shaking. God isn't absent in the chaos. He's very close, in every prayer and every candle held carefully. That light is still burning, quietly but strongly, reminding us that not every flame brings destruction. Yet as these small lights try to hold back the dark, a question hangs in the air. Will this gentle glow be strong enough to stand when other fires, fiercer and more ambitious, are quietly closing in? 6. The flames of war. Ukraine attacks Belgorod. The first hours of the news were filled with quick breaths and a sense of tension spreading fast. Reports from the Russia-Ukraine border area came pouring in, making us feel like if we blinked, the whole situation might change completely. Belgorod, a city right on the northern border with Ukraine, has long been seen as a sensitive military zone with many key supply bases. That night, many reports confirmed drones had struck the Oskol-Neftasnab oil depot, an important link in the fuel supply chain. The attack caused the storage tanks to catch fire fiercely, with flames shooting straight up into the sky and thick black smoke covering the whole nearby area. Details gathered from international news sites showed the flames at the scene rising hundreds of feet high, forcing local authorities to quickly set up a safety perimeter and carry out emergency evacuations. Early reports said many civilian buildings around were affected by the heat and toxic smoke, while firefighters worked through the night to keep the blaze from spreading to nearby fuel tanks. Matthew 24-6 comes to mind here as a strong reminder. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. The Bible verse doesn't describe one particular battle, but points out how conflicts keep repeating like a chain with no end in sight. After the incident, reactions from around the world came quickly. Many countries expressed deep concern about the risk of escalation, especially since Belgorod is seen as a red line in the region's security setup. Analysts warned that strikes on energy infrastructure could lead to stronger counterattacks, raising the chance of a fight that goes beyond just the two sides. Matthew 24-7 goes on to paint a bigger picture. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. This Bible verse is seen as a warning that conflicts don't stand alone. They tend to spread, overlap, and bring consequences that are hard to control. Online, arguments flared up almost at the same time as the fire in real life. Some people showed support for Ukraine, seeing it as a response in a long, drawn-out war. On the other side, many criticized it sharply, saying attacks deep into Russian territory could push the world closer to full-scale confrontation. The two sides clashed hard, showing how divided global opinions have become. The fire in Belgorod was eventually brought under control, but its effects still linger in the news and diplomatic talks. War keeps being seen as a dangerous stepping stone, where humanity pulls itself closer to the edge of destruction. And as the black smoke hasn't fully cleared from the skies over Eastern Europe, another sign, not from the battlefield but from above, seems to be quietly getting ready to appear. 7. Light from above slipping through the layers of clouds, warming humanity. There are moments that happen so quietly, the very silence itself sparks curiosity. On a flight cutting through thick clouds, the familiar sky view suddenly breaks with a soft golden beam. Not blinding, but enough to make anyone looking stop and wonder what they're seeing. The video, shot from a passenger seat, shows that light filtering through each layer of cloud, spreading gently like a warm touch. It's not dazzling like the northern lights, nor sharp and cold like lightning, but calm, enveloping, and protective. In that instant, you can feel a rare peace amid a world constantly shaken by bad news. That warmth leads many to think of it as a sacred sign, as if something is quietly reassuring people they're not alone. The light isn't coming from the ground or clearly from the plane systems. It's hanging high in the sky, close enough to see, but too far to touch. Genesis 1-3 comes up in discussions as a first explanation. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. This Bible verse isn't just about the beginning. It stresses that light always comes before order, paving the way for life and hope, even when everything is still chaotic. Some say it's just a rare optical effect, sunlight bending through ice crystals in the clouds. Others believe it's a gifted moment, divine light appearing right when people are most weary. Acts 9-3 gets mentioned too, as another piece. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. In the Bible, light isn't just for seeing, it's for awakening. On social media, debates spread fast. Some agree with the faith-based view, seeing it as comfort amid disasters and conflicts. Others push back, saying, attaching holy meaning to something unproven is too emotional. Between those sides, plenty of folks quietly look for a balanced answer, one that respects science without denying spiritual depth. What side do you lean toward? No matter what it's called, that light leaves a lasting echo. It reminds us that in the thick darkness of worry and division, gentle moments still appear, like a whisper that protection hasn't left the world. But as the light fades into the white clouds, another question quietly rises. If darkness from people themselves grows stronger, will those beams still be enough to light the way ahead? 8. The flames of judgment. America sinks into a sea of fire. The news feels cold and distant, but underneath that calm surface, there's a chaos that's hard to hide. When the decision came out, you could sense a quiet but heavy turning point, like the gears of the world's order had just slipped out of place. The choice to pull out of international climate cooperation came right as the Earth keeps hitting new heat records, stronger storms, and longer wildfires. Groups like the IPCC, UNFCCC, and IRENA, places that gather scientific data, coordinate promises, and help vulnerable communities, now face a big gap from one of the world's top emitting economies. Mainstream reports say this move disrupts emissions monitoring programs, cuts back funds for helping poor areas adapt to climate change, and makes global reduction goals harder to reach. Analysts point out that the U.S. is among the countries putting out billions of tons of CO2 each year, so any pullback creates a ripple effect across the whole system. Revelation 11:18 comes up as a strong warning for our time. The nations raged and destroy those who destroy the earth. These Bible words aren't just about anger. They make clear people's responsibility for the home they're living in. On the other side, supporters of the decision say it's about protecting national interests, easing economic burdens, and avoiding commitments seen as unfair. They argue that homegrown technology and free markets will adjust better than international deals. But critics warn that stepping away from agreed-upon science will cost more in the long run. Mainstream reports note that many longtime allies have expressed deep concern, saying this withdrawal weakens trust and makes joint efforts more fragile. International environmental groups keep sending warnings about rising risks of disasters, loss of biodiversity, and social unrest if climate change isn't controlled. 2 Peter 3:10 paints that picture with harsh words. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The earth and everything done in it will be laid bare. The fire in these Bible verses isn't just an end-time image. It's a reminder of the inevitable results when people ignore the limits of creation. In online forums, the arguments rage on without stopping. Some see this as a practical choice, others as a moral step backward, showing deep divisions in how people view global responsibility. The opposing views clash hard, but neither side has a convincing answer for our shared future yet. The decision is signed, and the world has to adjust to a new reality full of uncertainty. As those commitments get pulled away, the pressure on the earth grows heavier, like a door slowly closing. And while visible fires still burn on the surface, another danger, smoldering deep underground, seems to be waiting for its moment to erupt. 9. The ground is cracked open, with hot lava flowing deep below, sending up thick smoke. A heavy silence hangs over Centralia, unlike any town that ever existed. No footsteps, no lights in the windows, just empty roads under a gray sky. The surface looks calm, but the thick feeling in the air tells you something is quietly burning underneath. Long cracks, hundreds of feet long, tear through the old pavement, and gray-white smoke keeps rising from them like the earth's own breath. The heat makes the air shimmer a little, giving the place a creepy, dark, and scary feeling, like it doesn't belong to the normal world anymore. If you stand there too long, a worry about a fragile future creeps in without any words needed. Technical reports say the temperature underground can reach thousands of degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to destroy the rock layers and force everyone to leave their homes. Geologists believe it started with a coal fire back in the 60s, when flames spread through deep coal seams and turned into a disaster almost impossible to stop. To them, it's just a long industrial accident, nothing supernatural. But that very length of time makes many people uneasy. A fire that doesn't roar or explode, yet keeps burning for decades no matter what anyone tries. Could that really be just chance? Revelation 20:14 speaks of the final judgment. Death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. The lake of fire is the second death. That image of a fire that never goes out makes Centralia hard to ignore. When science gives its explanation, other questions come up. Why does the fire keep going, slow and unstoppable, as if it's beyond human control? Matthew 13:42 says, "They will throw them into the blazing furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Those words sound like a final sentence, not explaining the cause, but pointing to the outcome. Centralia stands there as a cold reminder that some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. The fire still burns underground, the town stays abandoned, and one question hangs in the air. When the consequences have already started, where will we find our last safe place? 10. Angel wings spread wide across the sky. It didn't come with noise or bright flashes, just quiet and gentle, like a fresh breath of air in a tired world. The early morning light gave everything a clean, pure feeling that made people slow down for a moment. When you looked up at the blue sky reflecting off those tall glass buildings, a sense of peace slipped in before you even had time to think. Right in the middle of the modern city, one glass building suddenly caught everyone's eye. The sunlight hit the clear windows, bouncing and bending in ways no one expected, creating something magical. Against the clear sky, two bright white shapes spread out evenly, looking just like huge wings opening up to cover what was below. That moment didn't last long, but it was enough to plant a deep, holy feeling in people's hearts, something hard to put into words. The air felt cleaner, the usual noise faded away, and all that was left was quiet respect. Many folks stood there a good while, not trying to figure it out, just letting the meaning sink in. Psalm 91:11 came to mind like a light shining through. "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Those pure white wings, showing up right when things felt unsteady, made that Bible verse ring louder and clearer than ever, reminding us of the protection given to those who stay awake in faith. Some said it was just a rare optical illusion caused by light and modern architecture. That explanation makes sense, but it still left something missing in how people felt. In these unsettled times, why did it appear so perfectly beautiful, like a sign of comfort rather than pure chance? Exodus 25:20 brings back the picture of protection. The cherubim are to have their wings spread upward, overshadowing the cover with them. The cherubim are to face each other. Those wings in the sky seem to echo that old image, showing that divine protection isn't just something from long ago. It still shows up in ways we can't always predict. That sight became a gentle reminder that protection is still here, for anyone holding on to faith through the chaos, not with overwhelming power, but with light, purity, and kindness. We're reminded there's still a way back, still a safe place for the soul. As the wings slowly faded in the sunlight, a quiet question lingered. Will we listen and turn things around before the final challenges come? In that moment, a soft but clear call came through. Take time to pray. Let faith light the way, and let our hearts be guided through the days ahead. The 10 signs have come together like cold chains, tightly linking human history, from the trumpet sounding in a restless sky to the white wings quietly opening high above. Each image doesn't stand alone. They connect into a clear flow, gently leading people's minds toward the final doorway. When linked together, they all reflect the same core meaning. What was written long ago in the Bible is now unfolding step by step. The rhythm of these signs doesn't allow indifference to linger. Fires flare up, the earth cracks open, the heavens send signals, and space seems to close in around each person's choice. This is the moment when words stop just describing and become urgent calls. Wake up from your sleep, pray in quiet, turn back before chaos swallows everything familiar. This chain of events doesn't just stir fear, it forces us to face a crossroads we can't avoid. One side is the burning fire of rejection and pride. The other is the guiding light of faith and obedience. Each sign is like a quiet but pressing question, putting the choice before humanity that no one can make for another. Revelation 22:20 is brought back as a final anchor of hope in the midst of the tension. He who testifies to these things says, "Yes, I am coming soon. Amen. Come, Lord Jesus." That short Bible verse doesn't plant despair. It opens a promise of His presence, reminding us that the end isn't only judgment, it's also a meeting for hearts that are waiting. Looking back at the whole journey of the 10 signs, a sense of calm slowly replaces the initial overwhelm. The trumpets have sounded, the fires have burned. These images are no longer distant stories but direct invitations. What will you do before the day of judgment, when there's no more room for delay? In these thoughts, feel free to leave a prayer or a sincere reflection in the comments below as a way to share your own faith and awareness. We're also invited to spread this message by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel so we don't miss any reminders for this important time. Thank you to everyone who's listened all the way to this point, and may you and your family be kept in peace and protected through the changes that are happening and still to come. Why, in just a short moment, did the whole world suddenly slip off its familiar track? The first days of the year started with fierce fires spreading through cities, the sky twisting into strange hanging shapes, weird lights piercing the night, the sun doubling or tripling up in the clouds, shadowy figures appearing far out at sea, winged creatures shooting up from deep forests, glowing orbs lurking in the dark, and objects with no explanation cutting across the sky. It all hit at once, giving people no time to adjust. All over the globe, order started to fall apart. Crowds poured into the streets to pray together, and nature reacted like it was being pushed too hard. We have to ask ourselves, is this just a string of random events? Or is it a message being sent in ways we can't ignore? We'll go through each of these signs, one by one. And right now, let's say a prayer that humanity wakes up in time, so peace doesn't completely slip away. And now, you won't have to wait long. We're going to start right away with 1. The flames of judgment burning Los Angeles. A feeling of unease spread quickly, not loud, but gripping your chest tight, like the familiar ground had just shifted off its normal path. You might not be standing right in the fire, but the world's breathing is changing, and the peace we once took for granted is starting to crack. No one ordered panic, but that quiet worry creeps in, signaling something has gone beyond the usual cycles. In the Los Angeles area, where the Santa Monica and San Gabriel Hills were once seen as natural shields, The Santa Ana winds shifted direction and picked up speed as if pushed hard. Neighborhoods on the hills from Pacific Palisades to Malibu, and then Altadena got swept into the fire's swirl, one after another. Evacuation routes jammed solid, and the sky turned a hazy orange that lasted for days. That sense of helplessness spread as people realized there was no buffer left between them and the heat closing in. The fire didn't spread slowly. It rushed like a wave, swallowing homes, schools, hospitals, and whole neighborhoods that were thought to be the safest. According to mainstream reports, the fires burned over 35,000 acres, destroyed more than 16,000 structures, and took at least 30 lives, with damage numbers still being updated in the days that followed. Thick smoke columns rose thousands of feet high, blocking the sun and creating a scene that put the whole city under a giant lid of destruction. In that setting, the Bible doesn't come across as comfort, but as a warning bell. Revelation 8-7 wrote ahead about the start of the destruction. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. The image of fire pouring down from above is no longer some distant symbol. It mirrors directly the burning city scenes. It doesn't stop there. Revelation 16-8 goes on to describe an even fiercer stage. The fourth angel poured out his bowl on the sun, and the sun was allowed to scorch people with fire. As temperatures soared, dry winds howled through every alley, and daylight felt stifling. That warning rings out like a grim guide to what's happening. Some say it's all just the familiar result of long droughts and seasonal strong winds, a pattern that's repeated in California's history. But the level of destruction, the speed of spread, and the heavy impact on densely built urban areas make that explanation less convincing compared to past events. When the fire crosses natural boundaries and digs deep into human life, the warning message gets clearer than ever. If this is just the first wave, then what lies ahead could be even worse, and no one can be sure they'll stay out of the next one. 2. Strange lightning in a mysterious face appearing on the horizon. Out on the horizon, thick clouds piled up like a living wall, and right when a bolt of lightning ripped across the sky, a shape in the clouds became so clear it took people's breath away. No need to exaggerate. The picture alone was enough to make you feel like something wasn't right was being revealed. In the Maslock area, as a storm rolled over that old urban spot by the sea, the lenticular clouds got bent by the wind into layers stacked on top of each other. A pale golden light flashed from the heart of the cloud, lighting up a structure that looked like a face with dark hollows and sharp, cold lines, along with heavy thunder echoing between the tall buildings. A creepy feeling spread around, and you can see why just a short video was enough to make thousands of people stop and stare at their screens. Right after that, social media and the news were full of all kinds of opinions. Some folks swore they could clearly see a face rising up from the storm, like the sky was shaping it on purpose to send a message. On the other hand, plenty said it was just the usual pareidolia effect, where people assign meaning to random clouds, and calling a weather event spiritual was a sign of group fanaticism. What do you think? Where's the line between plain observation and belief in a moment like that? In the middle of all that debate, the Bible got brought up not as a final answer, but as something to think about. Matthew 24-27 once described an appearance full of light and speed. For just as lightning flashes from the east and shines as far as the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. When you put those words next to the image of lightning tearing the sky and light spreading across the cloud layers, a lot of people couldn't help thinking of a sign that had been foretold long ago. Another verse, Luke 10:18, talks about the fall of dark power. He said to them, "I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning." In the context of a distorted face showing up amid thunder and lightning, this scripture makes quite a few people believe the flash of light wasn't random, but a picture of an invisible battle going on up above. One thing's for sure, that image touched a deep fear in people, where reason and gut feeling clash. Whether explained by science or seen through the eyes of faith, the moment the sky seemed to speak still leaves a lasting echo. And as the storm cleared away, the question hangs in the air. If this is just the first clear sign we've seen, what will come next? How will it show up? And will we recognize it in time before darkness closes in? 3. People take to the streets with the slogan, "God saves." Joy spreads as the streets suddenly light up with footsteps and voices chanting together, like some unseen force is guiding people back to something sacred in these shaky times. That feeling isn't loud, it's warm. It's not fierce, it's steady. It brings out a shared faith that's waking up. Don't we all feel that heartbeat when we see thousands of folks focused on one single message? In a world that's been hit hard by wars, disasters, and worry, the big avenues in places like New York or London are seeing something different. Crowds pour out onto the roads, holding candles, raising signs that say, "God saves." They're not there to fight anyone, they're there to pray. Their presence creates a quiet, solemn atmosphere where every step feels like a plea for peace around the world. Faces side by side, from all ages and backgrounds, come together around the same spiritual anchor. The candlelight flickers in the dark, reflecting in eyes full of hope, like a quiet whisper that faith is still alive and strong. We see a rare kind of unity there, people choosing prayer over panic, hope over fear. In those moments, the words of the Bible ring out like an old anchor that's never out of date. Psalm 46:1 says, "God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble." That verse seems to march along with the crowd, reminding us that even in the storm, there's a place to turn to. As the chants echo between the tall buildings, a sense of awakening spreads faster than any political speech. No arguments, no clashes, just hearts turned toward goodness and longing for a healed world. Joel 2:1 once warned and called, "Blow the trumpet in Zion, sound the alarm on my holy hill," like a reminder to stay alert as big changes draw near. From those candlelit streets, the message comes through clear. Faith isn't just inside churches, it's right out in everyday life. The unity of believers builds a spiritual wall, not to push against anyone, but to shield against the wave of unease spreading everywhere. It's a strong statement that when people turn back to the light together, darkness doesn't win so easily. And as the night ends, the candles go out one by one, but the echo lingers, quietly asking an open question. If this call keeps growing stronger in the days ahead, will we join that flow of faith, or stand by and watch the world turn without grabbing the chance to wake up? 4. A figure hanging over the sea. On the misty horizon, a faint glowing shape appeared, standing out against the water and clouds, leaving those who saw it standing still because they couldn't quite name what they'd just witnessed. Off the coast in Italy's Riviera area near Portofino, where the Mediterranean has inspired so many old stories, the scene that day had an unusual solemn feel. The sky was heavy with gray clouds, the weak sunset light reflected on the deep blue water, and right at that thin line between them, a human figure in white showed up, not clearly standing, not clearly floating, as if it no longer followed the usual pull of gravity. From where people were watching, the shape was clear enough to make you think of something familiar, but blurry enough to leave you wondering. There was no strong movement, no sound, just a quiet presence hanging in the air, giving a sense of something sacred that's hard to explain. What would you call it when science hasn't explained it yet, but your feelings have already jumped ahead of reason? That unclear image made many folks think of familiar symbols of faith tied to this sea, where people have long believed the line between this world and the next isn't so far apart. In that moment of seeing the figure, it wasn't fear, it was a deep, inner quiet, like standing before a sign beyond everyday words. As the photos spread around, the Bible came up not as a final answer, but as an old reminder echoing back. Matthew 24-30 says, "Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." Those words make the image over the sea more than just something you see with your eyes. It turns into a big question about what it really means. From another angle, Acts 1:11 reminds us, this same Jesus, who has been taken from you into heaven, will come back in the same way you have seen him go into heaven. The return is described as quiet but full of glory, enough for those who are paying attention to recognize it without a long explanation. Of course, some say it was just a random mix of light, clouds, and the angle, or even modern tech at work. But the strange clarity of that shape makes pure logic seem less convincing to many who saw it with their own eyes. If this was just a rare natural event, it still left people with a worry that's hard to shake. And if it was a quiet reminder of the return in glory, then the open question isn't about the sky or the ocean, it's about how ready we are in our hearts when the next sign comes. 5. 3 strange lights appear in the night sky.